Honestly, you know what I think about? I actually think about all the Bitcoin I sold. I had a bunch of Bitcoin in my funds when I managed outside capital. You know, that's a $3 or $4 billion mistake and growing now. Obviously, I shouldn't have sold it. Would have made them a lot more money. And then I think about, like, I bought some land
I
in
remember
Lake Tahoe.
that. Yeah.
It was in the Wall Street Journal. I'm sure you can find it, but
Yeah.
how much is that worth now? Probably a couple $100 million, maybe more.
Rough.
There will be a point, and it's probably in our lifetime, where it is an independent asset and a non-speculative store of value.
Selling Bitcoin now would be the ultimate financial regret, as its future as a global store of value becomes more inevitable with each passing year. That's the latest message out from seasoned venture capitalist and social capital CEO, Chamath Palihapitiya. Bitcoin's current price may already seem high to some, but selling now could be the regret of a lifetime. Many, like Chamath, have already made costly mistakes underestimating its potential, treating it as just another speculative asset. However, Bitcoin's trajectory is clear. It's on its way to becoming a global store of value and a true hedge against economic uncertainty. As inflation risks grow and traditional markets face increasing instability, Bitcoin's independent and non-correlated value will shine. The day when Bitcoin breaks free from dollar dependency is closer than most people realize. Holding on to Bitcoin today could mean securing an amazing opportunity in the financial revolution that's already underway. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video as Chamath Palihapitiya, together with Jason Calacanis and David Sachs, share their outlook on Bitcoin's growing influence in the global economy, with the US leading the way. Also guys, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy staying up to date with finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free and you can always change your mind. Now here's Chamath Palihapitiya sharing his bold take on Bitcoin's future.
It hasn't happened yet. And so until it happens, I think you have to view it as like a very good gold proxy, but it's a largely dollar denominated asset. It's a totally correlated asset. I mean, there will be a point, and it's probably in our lifetime, where it is an independent asset and a non-speculative store of value. There will be that day, but that day is not now. And I think it's very important to see the conditions on the field as they are versus what you wish it to be. And the reason is that it allows you to risk manage more appropriately. Because if you don't see it, then when something happens to the dollar complex, good or bad, or when something happens to rates, good or bad, or when something stimulative happens, good or bad, you're not going to react properly if you're in the business of managing it as a risk asset. So if you're in the set it and forget it bucket, and there are some people, I think it's great. None of these conversations matter. But like most people, you're probably going to be motivated to do something. And I think if you're motivated to do something, or you have FOMO that stimulates you to do something, whatever the psychology is that leads you to action, it's probably important to just view things as they really are versus how you wish them to be. And so I think the purists may eventually be right. I think they will be right at some point in my lifetime, but they're not right now. And that's why these things are correlated. The other thing I'll say just broadly about the market is I think that there's a tremendous amount of optimism about the economy. I think that's why you see risk spreads get crushed.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I think that as long as we see the kind of prognostications that the Trump administration is putting out, I think people are going to be mostly bullish. I think the way that this trade turns around is when something actually breaks in terms of the inflation picture or in terms of the deficit picture. And if those things look like going into 2025, that President Trump's actions are not going to be able to course correct it, then I think you're going to see people go massively risk off, which I think will not be great for markets, obviously. But right now, we're not in that point.
On election night, as Donald Trump celebrated his victory, he was joined by high-profile supporters such as Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., And Cantor Fitzgerald CEO Howard Lutnick, figures closely tied to the crypto industry. Now, with a Republican-controlled Senate, Trump's pro-crypto platform faces fewer roadblocks. He has pledged to maintain the US government's Bitcoin holdings, ensuring that the country will not sell off its crypto assets seized from criminals. Trump also vowed to unseat SEC Chairman Gary Gensler, a strong regulator of the crypto space. Additionally, he has announced plans to create a Bitcoin and Crypto Presidential Advisory Council to help develop more crypto-friendly policies. As a big advocate for Bitcoin mining in the US, Trump stressed the need for all Bitcoin to be mined domestically to help the country become energy dominant. With promises to slash interest rates, Trump is truly positioning himself to supercharge the crypto market as he reclaims the White House. As the US moves closer to becoming a Bitcoin-friendly nation, other countries are likely to follow suit, driving up demand for Bitcoin, which has a fixed supply. This sets Bitcoin up for a massive surge in value sooner than we might expect. Let's now hear from angel investor Jason Calacanis, Kraft Ventures co-founder David Sachs, and the production board founder David Friedberg as they discuss how recent developments are setting Bitcoin up for a historic rise in the next few years. But before that, today's video is brought to you by Crypto.com. If you still haven't got a crypto card yet, you're living in the past. Traditional cards have annual fees and transaction charges, but the Crypto.com Visa card doesn't. You can spend your crypto anywhere, and the benefits are amazing. With your Crypto.com Visa card, earn up to 5% back in CRO rewards on every transaction. Enjoy 100% cashback on Spotify, Netflix, and Amazon as a new customer for 6 months. Get complimentary access to airport lounges with a sleek metal card. Crypto.com is giving a $25 sign-up bonus for Jamie Tree viewers. Here's how to get your $25 bonus and start earning up to 5% back. Download the Crypto.com app via the first link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. Sign up using our referral code nutty for an instant $25 bonus. After approval, here's how to get your Crypto.com card. In the Crypto.com app, first tap the Card tab on the navigation panel. Select your card tier based on the required CRO staking amount. I have a Ruby Red card. You need to lock up 400 USD of CRO for 180 days, which is then unlocked. Accept terms and conditions and ensure you have sufficient CRO in your wallet for the stake period. Then, submit your delivery address. You'll then receive your Crypto.com Visa card, start making transactions, earning rewards, and enjoying the perks. To claim your $25 bonus and earn up to 5% back on transactions, click the first link in the description to get started with Crypto.com today. Now back to the video.
But I just want to start with a little bit of finance here. Bitcoin and finance stocks way up since the Trump win. Bitcoin peaked at 92,000. Unbelievable. And as we all know, we talked about it on the show, Trump heavily courted the crypto industry during his campaign. In addition to the Bitcoin news, since early August, Affirm, Robinhood, PayPal, Coinbase, all up double or 50%. It's an extraordinary run. In July, Trump headlined a Bitcoin conference. He laid out his plans. Number one, he was going to fire SEC Chairman Gary Gensler. Here's the clip.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman.
There it is. Whoa.
I didn't know he was that unpopular.
Fire him. Gonna fire him. Too bad for Gary.
I didn't know he was that unpopular. Let me say it again. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. Whoa.
There it is. Okay, enough with that. Technically, president can't fire the SEC chair, but he can appoint a new one when Gary's term ends in 2026. Or Gary could resign when Trump takes office. That happens sometimes. And folks are speculating Gensler has already made that decision to step down. He put out a press release with a quote in it that a number of people took note of, where he said, "It's been a great honor to serve with them," the people who work at the SEC, "doing the people's work and ensuring our capital markets remain the best in the world." Trump also said the federal government will never sell never ever sell its Bitcoin holdings, which they own through criminal assets, as you know. And number 3, he said he would create a Bitcoin and crypto presidential advisory council where Trump said, quote, "The rules will be written by people who love your industry, not hate your industry." And he also advocated that all future Bitcoins would be minted in America.
Just on crypto, the House Republicans already passed a framework for crypto regulation earlier this year. It actually got 71 Democrats to join it. It was called the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, or FIT 21. And it would classify digital assets like crypto as commodities regulated by the CFTC if the blockchain they run on is quote, functional and decentralized. That's the key requirement. If their blockchain is functional but not decentralized, then they would be considered securities and fall under the purview of the SEC. I think the crypto industry basically wants a really clear line for knowing when they're a commodity, and they want commodities to be governed like all other commodities by the CFTC. So that's what the Republican bill would do. I think with the Republicans now winning the Senate, the prospects for that bill to get enacted are now greatly improved, especially because Sherrod Brown, who used to run the banking committee, just lost to Bernie Moreno. This was a seat in Ohio. Elizabeth Warren is still going to object to this legislation, but she's just going to have way less influence. And like you said, it's not clear that Gary Gensler is going to be sticking around very long at the SEC. So look, the bottom line here is that I think that we are close to having clear rules of the road codified by Congress, which is what the crypto industry's been asking for. And the days of Gensler terrorizing crypto companies by issuing Wells notices without clarifying what the rules are that he's prosecuting, those days are about to be over. So I think this is why the crypto markets are rallying.
And so to your point, if it's centralized or partially centralized, you're going to be a security. If you're decentralized, anybody can join the network. No one person controls the network. And I guess most people would consider that Bitcoin versus, say, Ripple, which is partially decentralized, but largely centralized. And that's going to be, I guess, the new rules of the road. In addition to that, there are new rules that are being enforced that hopefully Trump
Assuming
supports.
FIT 21 passes, right? This bill is called FIT 21. But I think much, much higher likelihood that it or something like it now can get through the Congress.
It makes sense, yeah. And then there's also legislation that's already been enacted. There's multiple ways and multiple paths, but accredited investors, there's going to be a path to becoming an accredited investor with a test. So that is something that is also on the docket. We'll see if it happens. All right, Trump is building his team, and it's a long list. We've got, I guess, dozens of names right now.
The way I interpret his cabinet picks is that he's creating a coalition. So I view it more as like a package deal, J. Cal. I'm not going to pick out one or two. I think that Trump is basically trying to have his cabinet reflect the diversity of views within the Republican Party. He's not decisively choosing one side over another. What this means is that during his presidency, he's going to get all the views and all the options within the party.
So that's the collective view. Freeberg, your thoughts on Matt Gaetz? I mean, that seems to be the most controversial one. Any concerns? You think he's the most suited guy for the job?
I don't want to comment on Matt Gaetz, but I'd like to talk about...
Why not?
Because I'd like to talk about a broader point of view on it.
Okay.
So I think there's this kind of thing that happens in biology called evolution, and a lot of people think evolution is this continuous process, but it's not. Evolution is this process by which there is some significant growth for a period of time, and then there is an extinction event or an external force that causes what ultimately becomes what's called punctuated equilibrium. So the whole kind of system resets, and then the healthier, stronger species survive, and they grow and they persist. And if you look at the first chart, Nick, that I pulled up, this will just show you guys past extinction events. Large amounts of biomass over the past 500 million years get wiped out when these extinction events occur. And then evolution occurs because the species that can survive the extinction event persist in the environment and they grow. And that's how evolution kind of actually takes place, is there's an external force that changes what survives and what doesn't. It's kind of a testing force. If you look at federal spending, and this is a crazy link, but here's federal spending over the last couple of decades. And I would argue that many of the agencies, much of the bureaucracy, many of the jobs created, many of the spending programs, many of the operating models, many of the behaviors can kind of be viewed as a species within this ecosystem that have kind of grown a lot over the last few decades. And I think what Trump's mandate was by the people, and people don't want to hear this and they don't like it, but his mandate was to be kind of the extinction event. And whatever agencies, whatever operating processes, whatever individuals, whatever bureaucratic systems exist within the federal government that can withstand the scrutiny of the individuals that Trump is going to put in charge of each of these agencies, that they can survive and they can come out the other end, there is certainly some degree of strength and resilience and hardiness. This is not about right or wrong. This
You
is
say they
about
deserve to exist if they
I'm
can
saying this
survive.
is going to bring in the most disruptive force that federal agencies have ever seen. And the intention with Trump isn't to find some person to keep running things the way they have been run in the past. His mandate from the people who elected him, based on the message he put out there, is to do the opposite, which is to go in and be as disruptive and damaging and destructive as possible. And whatever comes out the other side will be stronger, will be hardier, and theoretically will be, more resilient. And I think that that's the event that's underway. Now, the people who are getting exactly what they want in Trump's candidacies are the Democrats. They were saying Trump is going to put a bunch of crazy lunatics in office and he's going to make them the cabinet, and now they're able to kind of clap their hands and say, "We told you so, we told you so." And I'm not sure that if they're really getting the message, which is that the intention here isn't to keep things running the way they have been running, but to really fundamentally test the systems and test the systems with the most challenging oppositional forces the systems have ever been tested by, which is the candidates or the individuals that he's putting in charge of each of these agencies. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong one way or the other, but I'm making an observation that this is going to be kind of an extinction level event, that Trump's decisions on who he's putting in place, I think, are going to drive an outcome on the other end that's going to make the government look very different. And I'm not going to sit around and say this person's good, this person's bad, because I don't think the point is to find someone that's, quote, qualified to do the job. The intention is actually quite different. And the outcome may actually be positive for America if you fast forward a couple of years in some cases. And there's some cases where things could get really messed up and people could suffer and jobs will be lost and all sorts of bad things will happen. But we cannot continue the way we have been with respect to federal spending, bureaucracy, and inefficiency in the federal government. And so something has to happen. And if this is the path by which this gets resolved in the limited window that's in front of this particular administration, which is probably 2 years, maybe 4, maybe this is what has to happen.
Chamath, where do you stand on Freeberg's interesting metaphor here that we're sending meteors into each of these departments to blow them up and see if they survive an extinction level event? I saw you nodding. Do you think this is an interesting framing?
Great take. I have nothing to add to Friedberg's take.
Got it. Who's your favorite?
Yeah.
You asked me the question, I answered. Who's your favorite?
Well, I think let's take Elon and Vivek off the table because
that's an obvious one that we
they're
all have been
friends,
behind since the beginning. Yeah. And we all support the idea. Who's not against more efficiency? I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to be against efficiency. It's like the easiest one to say you love.
I think the highest beta pick so far has been Bobby Kennedy. I think the second highest beta pick is Matt Gaetz.
Explain highest beta pick in this context, please.
And I think the third is Tulsi Gabbard. That there is the potential for an enormously positive 2 or 3 sigma outcome, but there's also the chance that it can really not work.
That was exactly why I picked Bobby Kennedy, because he's going to shake it up, right?
Peter Thiel just did this podcast with Barry Weiss, and
it was fantastic, by the way. Highly recommend.
Highly recommend.
He's awesome.
And one of the great things he said is that he was talking about science, but I think the example works here as well, which is that we didn't have enough skepticism and we had too much dogma. He was talking about sort of like the death of science. And I think that idea applies here as well, which is that the federal bureaucracy has not really been challenged. And Vivek put out a very compelling post on X where he basically said, like, look, when you, on the one hand, there's going to be radical transparency, but on the other hand, there's a lot of case law that we can use to kind of try to really dismantle the government apparatus. And they're putting themselves on a shot clock to do it by 2026 for the 250th anniversary. So I think I'm really predisposed to this idea that it'll force the government to be very resilient at the end of this process, and I think that's a good thing. And it'll probably be very different than what it is on the way in. And I think that that can be very positive.
To wrap things up, Trump's election win has already sparked a massive surge in Bitcoin, crypto, and fintech stocks, with Bitcoin hitting an all-time high of $92,000. His strong crypto stance shows that the US is gearing up for a huge revolution in the digital asset space. With all this momentum, Bitcoin is on track for a great future. So stay tuned as we see how this all plays out. Anyway guys, before we go, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, make sure to subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 50,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.